All right, we are all in this quest to be healthier and leaner, maybe even a little more muscular. And in doing so, we often turn to conversations around nutrition. I've been through a lot of education over my decades in this career, and I've been through a lot of personal practices to form my own personal opinions about other people's ideas. One of the benefits that I have from that wisdom of life experience combined with education is being able to simplify very complex issues into easier to understand concepts. Food, nutrition, it's a lot simpler in terms of what to eat and how to eat and all that stuff than I believe a lot of us make it. And I like to take things back to the food web that we all learned in grade school. The world, this nature that I'm sitting in, right? Animals eat other animals. Some of those animals eat plants. Some of those, all of those things die, and bacteria and fungi and parasites all consume those things to replenish renewable resources on this planet. And if we believe the media narratives, we're told that animals are unhealthy, plants are the most healthy, and there's no real exceptions. Carbs are bad is another great message, right? Let's think about the animal kingdom and how it functions without humans' ideas around food. An animal that's an herbivore consumes a plant, call it a rabbit. Rabbit eats the grass, or cow eats the grass, probably a better example. That cow turns that grass into meat. That grass becomes the cow. Humans are omnivores, and we have a lot less enzyme options for breaking down plant matter. So depending on what types of plants we're thinking about consuming, we may deplete some of our resources. And in many cases, it may be better to consume more animals to get those resources because of their bioavailability. So if we as an omnivore, which is different than the cow, which is an herbivore, consume the plant, which has a lot of cellulose in its leaves, its stems. Think kale, for example. Leaves and stems. That's what kale is. Be real. Asparagus, a grass. All right? Lots of cellulose. Our system has trouble breaking down the cellulose. It's not impossible. It's not like a dog. Dogs are carnivores. They don't have the enzymes to break down cellulose. You feed a dog plants, you'll watch it come out of the other end looking like it went in. Many humans experience the same process. Some plants they consume, when they go into the bathroom, they find out kind of came out looking the same. So the animal, if we consume the cow instead of the plant, the animal changed that plant nutrition into animal nutrition, and then we as humans seek to consume the animal, which is the same as us absorbing the plant, but we use the middleman, the cow, to benefit from its enzymatic reactions. Enzymes break things down for absorption. Without these enzymes, we cannot absorb, and if we cannot absorb, we cannot heal. We are losing nutrition, losing health. When we look at the plant kingdom in general, what parts of plants reward predation? What types of plants reward an animal or human consuming it? Fruit. Fruit is the part of the plant that the plant evolutionarily has created, so that when we eat the fruit, we eat some of those seeds, and then we pass those seeds out in our human waste, or the dog's waste, or the cow's waste. And on the other end, what that plant gets potentially is the propagation of its species. It's moving to the next generation. So we get rewarded for consuming fruits from an evolutionary perspective, and in many cases, stems, roots, and leaves, like again going back to kale, Many of those plants have evolved chemicals to punish predation. So unless you're an herbivore that has evolved in response to the defensive chemicals in those plants, then you're likely going to, over time, experience some negative consequences of consuming far too much plant stuff. We see this all the time in the vegan community. People switch to veganism, and initially they often feel better. 9 times out of 10, it's because they're switching from crappy processed fake food to real food, and that's why they feel better. But when we follow those people over, say, 2 years, we start to find very real health consequences from their avoidance of animals entirely over time, because the animals that we consume provide fat-soluble nutrients that we cannot absorb from the plants that we choose. And then on top of that, some of those plants leach our bodies of things like minerals and other chemicals that over time make us sicker. So this is not some pitch to consume only animals and turn into a carnivore. No, this is a conversation around a food web that the entire world and science agrees is true, and based on the physiology of human beings, many of us need to adjust our decision making around food because of that information. And where our genes come from factor in greatly anyway. If we come from a place on the globe closer to the poles, where temperatures are far colder, plants don't really grow as we get closer to the poles. So if our heritage, our ancestry is, more north and south, our system is likely enzymatically set up to benefit from far more animals than plants. Conversely, if we come from a place close to the equator or closer to the equator, more temperate environments where more vegetation grows, which means more human generations have grown and adapted to those food sources. Even in the equator scenarios, most tribal societies prefer consuming more animals than plants, but at least those ancestors have developed genetically the enzymatic processes to better handle larger volumes of plants than the people at the poles, north and south, in their ancestry. So yes, calories are going to matter for your body fat accumulation or loss and your muscle mass gain and loss. Energy is calories. But guys, it's only a small part of the equation. You got to try to train yourself to think about what's in those calories, because what's in those calories fuels your cells and changes what you are capable of fighting off over years in terms of disease, immunity, mood, things like depression. So think about these things and process the simplification of the food web in your food choices. The most bioavailable foods on the planet for humans in a general 8 billion people conversation on the planet, animals come first for sure. Anything from animals is far more availability than plants. There'll be a second video talking about differences between the animal you buy at your local grocery store and the animal that I buy from intelligent, farms. That being said, let's put that aside for this one video and say, again, animals are more bioavailable than plants. Second to that are things like fruits from the plants, honey, raw dairy and eggs, those come from animals. And then you have the plant matter, the leaves, roots, and stems, like your kale, your asparagus, your Brussels sprouts. They're at the bottom of the list of bioavailable nutrient stuff. And probably at the lowest part of that bottom are the grains in many cases, right? The trying to take nutrients directly from a wheat plant or an oat plant, good luck. You got to process that thing a lot for humans to absorb anything from it. So again, animals, fruit, in between that are sort of the things from animals like eggs and dairy. And then after the fruit becomes the plant in bioavailability.